Oh, 12-4.
Coach, I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this, so I'll just ask you the same question. How will Cam Newton and Bill Belichick mesh?
I thought it was funny that he said, no cap, I was working out. That to me made me laugh. No cap, Jenna is like, I'm not lying. That's like a new thing.
Did you just explain that?
He just defined it. He defined no cap for you.
That
was great, Coach.
I mean, I didn't understand it, but I was going to let it go.
Oh, that was great. Well, that was perfect, Coach.
Your kid told you, Coach.
Exactly. I have kids
Thanks.
at that age. Your kids are younger. I thought I would make sure you understood, but I thought that was
well, now I understand.
Funny start to it. And look, I had the same question and have the same question that Cam had. How are he and Belichick going to mesh? And I know Odell says that he's going to put you in a position to succeed. He is, assuming that you, A, are healthy enough to win the starting job, and B, part of being put in a position to succeed is being open to hard coaching and being open to coaching that is there for everyone to see. And it's very different, I would imagine. I don't know exactly what environment he was in Carolina, but I would imagine it's going to be very different than what he's used to. So if that's something that he can handle and it works for him, then I think he's got a great chance to be successful. It's not for everybody. I say this over and over again. It's hard. We heard the Eagles talk about how hard it is in New England. So you need to buckle up and be ready to deal with that.
Coach, when you say hard coaching, do you mean like the stories of Tom Brady being sort of, I don't know if they're yelled at, but kind of having his mistakes shown in the film room, and that's not the norm across the NFL? Is that what you mean by hard coaching?
Yeah, there's that. Your mistakes are going to be pointed out in front of everybody, and that's not how it works across the NFL. And oftentimes, and in a lot of industries, oftentimes it's not as blunt as it's delivered in New England, and it takes an adjustment, and you need a thick skin because it's not done with a malice. It's done because it's the right thing to do collectively to point out everybody's mistakes, because we all have a responsibility to each other to be successful. And you want each player on the team to feel like the other person is being held accountable. That being said, in a era of stars and different types of treatment, it's not what guys are used to.
Listen, and I think that's a great point, Coach. And I do think that Cam, while no environment is New England, Cam's head coach for his whole career had been Ron Rivera, who's not exactly a softie. And now I don't know exactly how Ron Rivera handles those meetings, but Ron Rivera was a hard-nosed player, has been known as a hard-nosed coach, even though his players seem to really like him. So I don't think he's coming from an environment where he just walks all over everybody. But when people talk about the fit, I do think if the question is Cam going to be apt to accept the type of coaching that goes on in New England, is a fair question, and the answer to that has to be yes, or it won't work. I believe the question to that will be yes, which is why I think it will work. The other lane wilds some folks are going down is, to me, the far less important, well, what about Cam's histrionics? So I've got a brief list here, Wilds, of guys that I'm sure you consider great Patriots. Aqib Talib, Asante Samuel, Corey Dillon, Lawyer Malloy, Julian Edelman, Randy Moss, Rodney Harrison, Rob Gronkowski. All those guys have a number of things in common. Two of them are they won Super Bowl or Super Bowls with New England, and the other one is they were very emotional, at times celebratory players, and they were embraced by the team because they produced. This idea that to play in New England, you have to be robotic and stoic on the field is belied by a body of work over 20 years. And so I don't think any of
Nick,
the tertiary Go ahead, Coach. Yeah, go ahead.
I coached a bunch of those guys that you're talking about, and I don't think that Asante Samuel, Rodney Harrison, Lawyer Malloy, were they known for their celebrations? Those guys were incredibly hard workers, and I think Asante may have transitioned a little bit personality-wise from when he was in New England to when he left New England in terms of how outspoken he was or how much he celebrated or any of those things. But Lawyer Malloy came in under Bill Parcells, so it wasn't like he was a stranger to the approach that was there.
Right.
What about Adalius Thomas?
Samuel.
What about Michael Bennett? What about Chad Johnson?
Okay.
There's a bunch of other guys that didn't fit in.
Coach, but you bring. Here's the thing about those guys. So Asante Samuel, to be fair, I am remembering him more as an Eagle than a Patriot. So maybe his personality was different early in his career. You were there, you would know that better than me. And when I think of Rodney and Lawyer was a great Patriot until they, Belichick, a couple weeks before the season cut him for salary cap reasons. But those guys, when they made a big hit or made a big play, you knew about it. But the guys that get brought up all the time, and it's fair, Chad, Adalius, the other guys, Albert Hainsworth. The reason they didn't work is because they didn't produce. Adalius Thomas is the one guy he didn't produce, and he was late to practice one day because of a snowstorm and then griped about it to the media, and then he was on his way out. It's if you produce on the field, Wilds, the personality stuff, I've never seen it bother the Patriots. And by the way, they didn't try to mute Gronk. They don't try to mute Edelman. The guys who produce are allowed to be themselves. So to me, it's a question of, will Cam produce, Kevin?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.